Have you ever felt like something else is kind of running your life? Not you, but something else. Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful idea about an ancient concept that has some seriously modern twists: idolatry. We're going to unpack what it really means to guard our hearts, figure out what's actually competing for our attention, and maybe, just maybe, rediscover the freedom that comes from getting our priorities straight.
We're kicking things off with this verse because, honestly, it just nails the core tension, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got this incredible liberty, this freedom we're supposed to be living in. But right on its heels is this serious warning: don't get tangled up again. And that brings up a huge question. What kind of bondage are we getting tangled up in today, maybe without even noticing?
The text we're digging into today suggests that this liberty, it's all rooted in a fundamental, God-given freedom, the freedom to worship. And here's the thing. It makes the point that no one can ever really take that away from you, because at the end of the day, what happens inside our own hearts and minds, that's our own territory.
But here's where it gets really interesting, right? This amazing freedom, it isn't just a passive gift we get to sit on. Nope. It comes with a huge responsibility. We're called to be vigilant, to actually pay attention to where we're putting our focus, because that one choice, it has consequences that ripple out into everything. And this right here, this is the absolute core of it. What you choose to worship isn't just some casual preference, like your favorite brand of coffee. It actively shapes you. It literally molds your values. It directs your thoughts, and ultimately, it determines who you are. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Who or what you worship is who or what you will become.
So that leads us to the big, unavoidable question for all of us, doesn't it? It's time for a little honest self-reflection here. What is really sitting on the throne of your heart? What is it that you treasure more than anything else?
And you know, this verse from Matthew just connects all the dots perfectly. It takes this big, abstract idea of worship and makes it super concrete. It's simple, really. Just follow the trail of your treasure. Your time, your energy, your money, your passion, and guess what? It'll lead you straight to the altar of your heart.
Okay, so let's get practical. We're not just talking theory here. The source material we're looking at points to some very specific, very everyday things that can become these modern-day idols, often sneaking in when we're not even looking.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess some of these look pretty familiar, right? Our phones, our careers, our stuff, and that endless chase for a comfortable life. Now look, none of these things are inherently evil, but the text warns that any one of them can subtly go from being a part of our life to becoming the absolute center of it.
So let's be super clear. When we're talking about an idol here, we're not talking about, some golden statue. We're talking about anything or anyone that bumps God out of that number one spot in your life, the thing that becomes your main source for who you are, what makes you feel secure, or what you focus on most.
And this comparison just lays it out perfectly. Take your phone. As a tool, it's amazing, right? But when you feel like you literally can't function without it, when the very thought of being disconnected triggers actual panic and anxiety, well, according to our text, that's when it has crossed a very important line. It's no longer a tool, it's become a demanding idol.
And it's the exact same principle with our work. A healthy career is a fantastic thing. You use your skills, you provide for your family, it's great. But the text warns us. When your job becomes your entire identity, when it pushes you to neglect your health, your family, your spiritual life, then it's taking God's place. It's not just a part of your life anymore, it is your life.
And this one is so relevant today. The text specifically calls out this desire for a soft life, a life of constant ease, no friction, total convenience. That pursuit in and of itself can become this all-consuming goal. It can become a new God that demands all our attention and all our energy.
So all of this is building up to a really powerful conclusion. This isn't about trying to juggle a dozen different priorities. No, the whole situation is framed as a fundamental black and white choice that every single one of us has to make.
And this verse right here is the foundational argument for everything we've been talking about. It makes it painfully clear. Trying to split your loyalty is just an illusion. It's impossible. You will eventually love one and hate the other. You simply cannot serve both God and mammon. And mammon is just a catch-all for wealth, possessions, and all those worldly idols we've been unmasking. One will always win.
And this chart, wow, it really shows you what's at stake. The source material draws a sharp contrast between the outcomes of these two paths. A singular focus on God, that's described as leading to light, to purpose, to grace and peace. But serving those other idols, that leads down a path to darkness, anxiety, depression, and that yoke of bondage we talked about at the very beginning.
Okay, so what if you recognize yourself a little bit on that wrong path? What do you do? Well, the great thing is the text doesn't just point out the problem and leave you hanging. It gives a really clear, actionable solution for how to reclaim your focus and find that peace you're looking for.
And it's a pretty straightforward 3-step process. First, you gotta sincerely, honestly look at your priorities. Where does your treasure really go? Second, you have to actually name the things that are competing for that top spot. Call them out. And third, it's a conscious, disciplined choice to keep your total focus on Him.
And here's the beautiful takeaway, the promise at the end of all this. This isn't about a life of just restriction and saying no to things. The discipline of guarding your heart, of keeping your focus singular, it comes with an incredible reward, God's grace and a deep, lasting peace.
So, we'll leave you with this one final thought to mull over. As you go about your day, your week, what is the mammon in your life? What's the thing that's constantly calling for your attention, competing for the throne of your heart? Answering that question honestly, well, that's the first and most important step you can take toward real freedom. Thanks for tuning in.